Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to talk to you about the Dreams of Gaia tarot. Okay guys, so let's get the aesthetic stuff out the way first because there is a bit of information to convey on this tarot deck. But first, in terms of the box, so I've got, as you can see, I've got two different editions of this tarot deck. There's the standard edition, which is the bigger size box here, and there's the pocket edition, which we've got on the right here. Okay, both are hard, sturdy boxes, two-part boxes. Um, there's a bit of a different design. Obviously, this one's more kind of a black background, and this is more of a kind of a dark reddy burgundy type colour. But both pretty sturdy and both do the job nicely. Um, both come with guidebooks, um, but the guidebook for the standard edition gives a substantive amount of more information. As you can see, it's a lot bigger and thicker, whereas the guidebook that comes with the pocket edition is more of a kind of a little white book style guidebook, where you're getting key phrases. And I mean, don't get me wrong, you're still getting a fair bit of information for each card, but it's more kind of a bullet points and whatnot. Whereas if I can show you the kind of information that this book goes into, oh, here, how was that for an example? So there's the thought card, card number 18. So you can see we're getting key phrases, we're getting the meaning, you know, like there's pages and pages. It tells us what the card is talking about if it comes up in a kind of a past position, if it comes up in the present, or if it comes up in the future. There. So how many pages did we get on that card there? Oh, there's one here as well. So one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. 7 pages on the thought card. Now that's not the case for every single card. Um, but that's as opposed to just like 1 page with keywords and key phrases in the smaller guidebook. So if you're going to get this deck and you're not familiar with the system, then that is definitely, I would recommend getting the standard edition just purely because the guidebook is so much more detailed. Okay. Um, in terms of the cards themselves, so let me move the boxes out of the way, shift that over there. So here are the standard edition cards, and here are the pocket edition cards. Now we can see the size difference between the two, and if I pop a Rider-Waite Smith card here, then we can kind of see a bit of a size comparison. So in comparison to what we might call our standard tarot size, our pocket edition card is obviously a fair bit shorter and a wee bit um, less broad. Can't think of what the word for that is now. Skinnier. Out of interest, let's see what this is in comparison to a standard playing card. Oh, okay, so the pocket edition is just about the same size as a standard kind of a playing card. Um, it's maybe just a smidge taller. See that? So that's the kind of a size you're getting with the pocket edition. And then the standard edition is actually bigger than your standard tarot size. It's more of an oracle size, I would probably say. So there's the comparison there. Card stock, two very different card stocks here. So the card stock for the standard edition is glossy, and it's I mean it's decent. It's kind of a what I would probably call, I would compare it to your Schiffer type card stock. It's that kind of a glossy, kind of a photographed paper, if you can call it that. Whereas the pocket edition is not glossy at all. It's this kind of a soft matte. So the cardstock on the Pocket Edition is much nicer than the cardstock on the Standard Edition. There's just one more thing to note before we talk about some of the information and do a flip through, and that's the information you actually get on the cards themselves. So you can see here right away on the Standard Edition we're getting a title, okay, whereas in the Pocket Edition we're only getting the number. Now that might be fine for a normal tarot deck that's, has your standard major arcana, etc., etc. But given that this does something completely different with the major arcana, it could potentially be problematic. You might find if you only have the Pocket Edition, you'll probably find that you'll need to keep referring to the guidebook to even just know what the card is called. Whereas with the Standard Edition, we obviously have the titles on here. The minors, it doesn't make that much a difference because if we take the Ace of Air there, and any of the minor cards here, here's the Ace of Fire, you can see you're actually getting the same kind of a title on both. You're getting the number and the element. So yeah, that's just something to bear in mind if you're looking at getting one of these decks. So as I was kind of alluding to there, it's a very different system. Dreams of Gaia is its own system. It really doesn't, especially in the majors, it doesn't ring true with what we know to be tarot. It kind of goes in its own direction. So I want to give you some information on how the major arcana in this deck is structured. Okay, you're really not going to be able to like layer your Smithway or your standard tarot majors onto this. It's just totally different, and I think that I would probably get myself confused if I tried to, I'll say, oh, well, this card is kind of like that card in the Smithway, and this one is kind of like that. Like, it just won't work like that. It's one of these systems I think you would have to embrace as it is, rather than trying to translate between the two. So let's look and give some information. So the deck structure, and I'm reading here from let's zoom in a wee bit so as you can see what I'm looking at. This is from the guidebook for the Standard Edition, as you can see. So for the Major Arcana, it says here the Major Arcana is broken up into 4 groups. Okay. We have the Choice card. Okay, so the first group is 1 card on its own, and that is this Choice card that you've just seen at the top. And then we have 3 groups of 8. Okay, the Choice card, and then Stages of Life, Reasons for Being, and Influences. So if you're adding up in your head as we go along here, you'll note that there are 3 lots of 8 is 24 plus 1 choice card is 25. So there's actually 25 cards in the major arcana for this deck rather than our standard 22. So it is 3 additional cards. Okay. So choice card is a standalone card. There's 8 stages of life, 8 reasons for being, and 8 influences. All right. So let's just have a look and see what it says about each kind of a section. So it says the choice card is the single most important card in the deck. For the very premise of Dreams of Gaia, it's everything. Sorry. The very premise of Dreams of Gaia Tarot is that everything comes back to choice. All that we are and all that we become is governed by the choices that we and those around us make and how they in turn create and influence our reality. Okay. The stages of life cards. So there are 8 stages of life based on principal archetypes and events. Okay, and we're going to go through what the cards are when we flip through. So regardless of gender or age, we all possess these archetypal qualities. And we're all bound by the cyclic nature of beginning and end, creation and destruction. These cards represent moments and events that shape our lives and innate facets of our nature and have an influence on our environment, our relationships, and how we perceive the world around us in general. So you might say that, the stages of life card represents each phase that we go through as people. At any point in our life, we're going to be in one of these 8 phases. Okay. The reasons for being. Let's see, it says there are 8 reasons for being, and again, we'll go through what the cards are when we flip through. So we're here to seek, to feel, to grow, and to heal. Our primary reason for being is to experience life, both the good and the bad, but we're also here to learn and gain knowledge, to grow wise, to experience love in all its forms, and to find healing and unity. We are here to find our true self, to create abundance, and to fulfill our personal and chosen destiny. So the reasons for being are kind of our motivations. So at any point through our lives, what are we doing? Well, our motivations are the reasons for being. So if we look at our motivations for whatever it is that we're doing at a particular time in our lives, then that is what is represented by these reasons for being cards. So again, 8 of them. And then finally we have influences. Now it says here, whilst it's true that events we experience and our reasons for being can and do influence our ability to see opportunities and make choices, there are another 8 key elements that play a defining role in influencing us for the better or worse. Okay, and we'll go through the cards in a minute. So that gives you a bit of an idea of the structure of the major arcana cards. Okay, now what I'm going to do is we're going to change so that we've only got the table, because I don't think we need my face to be in the way of this. And then I'm going to flip through the majors. So we've got the standard edition and our pocket edition. Now let me just get us nice and zoomed in. So we start off with the choice card, and as read out from the book, this is a kind of a standalone category. The choice card, she describes as being the most important card in the deck, and it's in its own category. And it represents all of the choices that we make in life, all of the choices that we and others around about us make that influence our lives, essentially. So we then have the 8 stages of life cards. So we have the child, the maiden, the youth, the mother, the father, the crone, the sage, and the 8th stage of life is death and rebirth. And we have this beautiful representation of the cosmic egg with the serpent, the world serpent around it. And we have these 3 skulls underneath. Really, really nice card, I think. So next we come on to the 8 reasons for being. So these are the motivations, okay? So knowledge, wisdom, healing, love, union, self, abundance, and finally, destiny. And then the last group are the influences. So we have the journey. We can be influenced by the journey itself. And we see this kind of the two paths opening up. Oops. Thought, emotions, desire, perception, intuition, integrity, and finally, faith. Okay, so those were the majors. Now we come on to the minors. The minors are more familiar with how we, you know, with what we generally understand tarot to be. The minors are more, they more resonate with our standard tarot minors. However, I think that it is worth noting a few key points. I do think that it's a very kind of a numerological and elemental deck, and I think that it's worth going through and trying to understand a bit about this deck's numerology system. Also, it does something different with the court cards. So first of all, let me read a bit from the book, and I'm going to have to just zoom that back out a bit. So let's look and see what the book says about the minors. Whoops. Okay, so the minor arcana. It says the minors in the dreams of Gaia are is elemental by nature. There are four suits: earth, air, fire, and water. So as you can see, the suits are the elements rather than the usual kind of tools that we associate with the elements. There's 14 cards in each. They're numbered from ace through to 10 with one alignment or balancing card. Okay, so rather than a page, we have this alignment or balancing card, and then three court cards. All right, so that's a bit different, but we'll look at that in a wee minute as to how that kind of tends to play out, how that works in the deck. It says here the traditional king and queen remain, but within each suit there is a figure that stands beside the throne. For earth, it is the senescal, I'm going to pronounce that, the keeper of keys to the kingdom. In air, we have the scribe, the keeper of knowledge, of information, law, and tradition. stands beside the king and queen of air. The hero, the champion, the warrior, the protector, stands at the side of the king and queen of fire, whilst the emotionally wise and empathetic counselor gives guidance to the king and queen of water. So these the 12s, or what would normally be the knights, to me still ring true with the knights a lot. They still seem to be the kind of the wielders, the champions of their element, but they also fulfill this role as like an advisor to the king and queen. Um, and then we have the king and the queen of each element, which is just normal. So the last bit to note here, it says the role of each suit is very specific. I'm going to hold this a bit closer because I feel as though this isn't focusing very well and it's annoying me. So the role of each suit is very specific. The earth cards address the subject of home, family and career. The air cards are associated with the mind, with thoughts, beliefs, ideas and imagination and reality. The fire cards are action cards and address physical acts of being and doing. And the water cards are the realm of emotions and address the subjects of feelings, reactions and behaviour. Now, there's a bit of extra information that I've kind of put together that I want to give you, and that's what I was talking about the specific numerology system that this deck seems to adhere to. Now, this is something that I've put together that isn't actually given in this book. I've kind of gleaned it from, from the interpretations that the book gives. Um, so what I can maybe do actually is I can just show you what I'm reading from here. It's very basic. So if I change this to screen, then you can see the document that I've put together and that I'm looking at. So it's just a basic numerological system. So the aces in this deck tend to look at new beginnings, new exposure to the element. That's nothing unusual. Again, the twos, we're looking at duality and partnership, people coming together and separating and whatnot. The threes, first actions, exploring the element. Again, for me, that's normal. That's how I would normally associate the three. The fours are achievement and learning to harness the element. Fives, instability and conflict. So we lose focus and the element gets out of control. The sixes are when things harmonize again. We regain that control of the element and gain a more mature understanding of it. The sevens are more of a spiritual number. Okay, so this is for me where it tends to deviate from my usual I guess the numerology that I normally associate cards with. So spirituality and developing a more spiritual and broader awareness of the element. The eights is wielding the element in order to rise up to a challenge. The nines are attaining this mastery over the element. Okay, so the nines are where we start to kind of look at completing our journey with the element. And then the tens is the reflection of that element, in ourselves and in our lives. And I put here the 11, and this is what would normally be the page. Okay, so the 11 is kind of like the way that I see it. It's like the setting of the journey. It's where we kind of explore the element. So I've said here it's the playground in which we explore the element, or if you think about everything in terms of the two pillars of the high priestess, this duality, and we're kind of oscillating, we're swaying in between. It's kind of like that because as you'll see with all of the 11s, it's kind of like that it's two extremes. It's it is like the two pillars that we balance in between. So I just thought that that would be quite useful to convey before we start looking at the cards themselves. Okay, so I'll leave that there for a second. Obviously you can pause this and look at that. And let's get back over to the table camera. Okay, so table only. And we shall start looking at the side by side again. So we're starting off with the suit of fire. We have our ace of fire. So you can see, as I'd said, we're getting the same information on each card. So there's no disadvantage through the kind of a pips or the minors of having um, the pocket edition. You're getting the same information. The two of fire. The three of fire. You can see the person setting out on their journey. The four. So this more focused approach, you know, the aim with the arrow. The five. So we see a bit of a fist fight. So passion's running too high. That element of fire is getting out of control. Six. We see some sort of mediation happening. Okay, so bringing balance back to that situation. Compromise. The seven. The eight of fire. And there's just a certain fierceness about this card. The person looks like they are ready for that challenge. The nine of fire. And finally the 10 of fire. You can see that all of the chakras are aligned here. So this is our 11. So in the pocket edition, all we get is 11 and the element, the symbol for the element, fire. Whereas in the standard edition, we're given the title. And this is what I mean when I say the 11s all have these two extremes. So we have masculine and feminine here. So when I'm saying this is like the battlefield for the element, you know, gaining control, like learning about the element of fire is all about, you know, action and inaction, you know, action and passivity, the changes that we influence in our lives, building up our energetic selves, okay? And perhaps what would be better than masculine and feminine is, you know, action and action and inaction, you know, activity and passivity, that kind of a thing. It's the kind of a action of the magician versus the passiveness of the high priestess. So the 12 is the hero and the element of fire. And as you can see, we get the title again in the standard, but not in the pocket edition. For the 13, we have Queen of Fire. And then 14, we have the King of Fire. Okay, onto the element of air then. We have our Ace of Air. I love the Two of Air. That's kind of a harsh split between the light and the dark, the two different points of view. the 3 of air. So I said that threes are like exploring the element. So the element of air is about, as it said in the book, it's our thoughts, it's our intellect, it's our mind. So exploring that, that's exactly what we see here. We see someone exploring their mind, their intellect. We see someone who's learning, who's growing their intellect. So I really like this card for the 3 of air. I far prefer it to the Solabusca, 3 swords through the heart, if I'm honest. The 4. So we see like time and all of these kind of you know, intellectual symbolism here. So we're harnessing the intellect, we're focusing it, you know, we're defining things, we're defining time. You know, we've enabled ourselves to measure time, which is something that, I mean, nowadays we just couldn't imagine not being able to do that. The 5 of air. The 6. So this is really nice because it's not dissimilar to the 2 where we had that split down the middle, but here it's not quite as, this is one side and this is the other. Do you see how in the Caduceus we have the white wing going into the kind of a dark side and the dark wing going into the kind of a white side here? Whoops. So there's much more of a yin yang feeling here from this card than what we got in the 2. So more balanced, more harmonized. In fact, what I'll do, just to let you see them side by side, here's the 2. So it's much more of a sharp line in the 2, whereas it's much more blurred in the 6. Or 7. Eight. The 9 of air. And the 10 of air. The 11 is body and mind. Twelve is the scribe, so the keeper of knowledge of wisdom. For 13, the queen of air. I love the owl symbolism. The owl is a symbol of Athena, who was the goddess of wisdom. And the king of air, with the eagle, I think this is. The eagle being king of the skies. Okay, we come on to the element of water. So our aces. 2. threes. So it's interesting here. We said that the threes were about first actions and exploring the element. Normally we translate that into, exploring the element of water, we would normally think of as, socializing, exploring those connections with other people that the element of water represents. Here, actually, what we're seeing is someone who appears to be underwater. Okay, so much more of a metaphorical representation here, perhaps, than what we're normally used to seeing. The fours. The fives. The sixes. So it looks like someone's reaching out a helping hand. So after that period of loss, of mourning, of grieving, and the five, we have, someone, like we have kindness, we have someone reaching out to help, and the six. The seven of water. The eight. The nine. And the 10 of water. For the 11, we have emotion and intellect. So exploring that balance, between the head and the heart. For 12, we have the counselor. Our queens of water. And our kings of water. So into the final element of earth, we have our aces. The two. The three. The four of earth. So very kind of a strong card, structured, achieving that stability. The five. So we have the playing cards here, the shiny things. I think this is a card of, overindulgence, We even see the kind of the red and the kind of the nod to, I think, Pan probably, the god of the wild. So just giving in a bit to our overindulging a bit and giving in to our desires, I think is what's represented here. Maybe even, with the kind of a gambling nod. The 6. The 7. The 8 of earth. The 9. The 10. 11, we have heaven and earth. And what she says in the book is we are essentially spiritual beings in a physical body. So our exploration of ourself and our everyday lives is exploring that balance between our spiritual selves and our physical selves. Hence, heaven and earth being the kind of a setting, um, for the journey through the element of earth. 12, Sinesco. 13, Queen of Earth. And 14, King of Earth. So before we move on to talk about how the cards shuffle and do a bit of a sample reading, I wanted to quickly show you this. This is actually a picture that I posted on my Instagram. So follow me on Instagram if you don't already. It's at Elemental Cartomancy. But I took this picture and posted it on my Instagram. This is something that I find really helpful to do with any deck really, but particularly with a deck that maybe goes in a slightly different direction than what I'm used to. Really, the important bit is the minors, what I've done with the minors. And as you can see, what I've done is I've lined them up. So we've got the fire ace through 10, the air ace through 10, the water, and the earth. And what it means is you can look at it at how the story develops um, along each horizontal line, but also, vertically we can look and see all of the fours together, for example. So if we look at the fours here, um, we see the archer very kind of a focused. We see the the four of air harnessing those intellectual concepts. So we can see that the four is a card of stability, of harnessing the element, of kind of gaining some sort of focus over the element. So I find that a helpful thing to do in any deck of tarot cards. And what you can see is along the very top line as well. What I've done is I've got the 1 to 10 of the major arcana cards, and I put them there pretty much just to see whether I could find some correlation between each of the 1 through 10 majors and the kind of the numerology. Not really sure. I can see it in certain places, but yeah, let me know what you think. But yeah, the main thing is the 10 by 4 of the minors ace through 10. I always find that really helpful, a kind of a helpful grid to look at. So coming on to, and we're zoomed in way more than what we want to be for this. Coming back to looking at the cards. So in terms of how they shuffle, both decks, they riffle shuffle well. So, so you can see that you can get a nice riffle on that, and you can get a decent bridge shuffle on it as well. I do have bigger hands, so I find this deck quite easy to to work with. And it's the same with the overhand. But if you have smaller hands, then this might be a bit more unwieldy for you, and you might find yourself having to overhand it kind of a long ways like that. Whoops. In terms of the pocket edition, again, it does riffle quite well, which not all decks of this size do. Usually, the smaller you make the deck, the more difficult it becomes to riffle. But I can just about get a good riffle shuffle on that. But it's not really one that's easy to bridge. So I find myself having to combine the two halves like that. Really nice to overhand, obviously, because of its kind of a playing card type size. So I found a nice wee spread in the book. It's a 3 card spread, and what we'll do is we'll use the standard edition to pull cards for this spread, just because of the the nicer, not the nicer size, sorry, because it has the titles. So basically the spreads, have I still got it here? Yeah, so it's this union spread. Card 1 is the aspect, card 2 is the soul, and then card 3 is let the two become one. And basically what these positions mean is the aspect is kind of like a situation that you're dealing with right now. The soul is something inherent in you, um, an ability, a gift, something that you've got, that you can use in your life. And then the third card is kind of a bringing the two concepts together. So how do you use that ability to negotiate the situation? Um, so let's give the cards a quick shuffle. Okay, so first of all, the aspect, the situation that we're looking at. We have the Four of Water. Okay. Now, when you look at the interpretation in the book for this, it is there's nothing inherently negative about it. It's about focusing yourself on your emotions, becoming more, I guess, aware of your own emotions. Quite often, we read the Four of Water in standard tarots as a card about, maybe a bit of um, narcissism, if I can use that word. And we can kind of actually see that in this. We see someone who appears to be looking in a mirror, so you can still get that from this. But at its core, it's about becoming secure with yourself. Becoming one with your own emotions, I suppose. Um, so it's a stability in the emotional journey. Trying to achieve that emotional stability is what we're essentially looking at here. So that's our situation. That's the aspect. Now let's look at the soul, okay? The thing that we have, the ability or the gift that we have inherent in us at the moment. So we have the ace of earth here, okay? So this is like a new beginning, a new exposure to the element of earth. So what is it that we have that's going to help us with this emotional stability, with this emotional journey? It's actually there's something around about us that's going to materialize, or that is materializing at the moment, that's showing up in our lives that is going to help us with that, So there's something that's going to help us achieve that kind of just that emotional security. Um, Something that we're going to have to look out for. We're going to have to be paying attention. The aces aren't a guarantee, they are a potential, they are a seed, or something that we need to work at. So we need to be looking out for this opportunity, and that is going to help us in our ability to, you know, to achieve this focus and focus on our emotions. And then the third card is the, bringing it together. We have the Nine of Fire. Okay, so how are we going to use this new opportunity to gain this emotional stability? Well, the nines we said are about attaining mastery over the particular element. Okay, so there's an opportunity coming up to attain mastery over the element of fire. Now, we said that the element of fire is about how we change and influence the world around about us. Our footprint, our footprint on the world around about us almost. It's kind of a very related to the sacral chakra. And I mean, interestingly enough, so in this card, we have what appears to be a chakra energized. It is more of an orange color, which I would say is sacral, but it's in more of the position of the root chakra. Um, but very sacral chakra in terms of the element of fire, and we're attaining mastery over that. Okay, so some opportunity is coming up that's going to let us gain control of our environment around about us, of the actions that we take, and that in turn is going to let us achieve this kind of this focused emotional state, this emotional stability, just this, I guess, contentment in our lives. Okay, so it almost feels like, I mean, given that we've got fire and water here, what this seems to be telling us is that there's an opportunity to coming up that's going to, it's going to let us achieve balance in one aspect of our lives, and then it's like all of the pieces fall into place. That's going to in turn let us achieve this balance in other aspects of our life as well. Okay, so we need to be looking out for that domino effect. That kind of that just all of the pieces falling into place in our lives. So that's quite a nice reading. It's quite a positive reading. And yeah, I love the, just the colors, how the reading hits us. It's just really, really nice, I think. Um, so I'll leave it there. I hope that this has been helpful for everyone. I have tried to give a fair bit of information. I'm aware that it's been quite an information packed walkthrough. Um, Obviously, mute me, speed it up if you just want to see the flip through of each of the cards. I'll be putting the chapters in the description so that you can just kind of, if you so wish, skip to the bit of the video that you want to see. Um, there's only one more thing that I want to say, and that's a thank you to the very lovely Jamie Kelly at Wandering Mountain Bardic Path. The Dreams of Gaia Pocket Edition was a gift from the lovely Jamie. So you recall that I've talked recently about the passing of my gran, how I'd received a box full of well wishes and love and gifts from my friends in the tarot community, and this was a gift from the lovely Jamie within that box. Um, so Jamie, if you're watching and if you've made it to this point, thank you so much for this kind gift. I think you can tell that I'm loving it. I'll I'm looking forward to getting a lot more familiar with the deck, with the titles and the system and how it works, and I think I'll be more confident in using the Pocket Edition then. But until that point, I'm either be using it in conjunction with the book or in conjunction with the Standard Edition, so as that I'm getting my titles and whatnot. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll hopefully see you all in the next video. Bye bye.